for it. Anyway, I'm 49-year-old, I'm self-employed. I was 15 years old when I became self-employed. I'm a businessman. I know what people need, business people need. I know what customers need, customers who go to shops. The customer is always right. But obviously, we've got a lot of things to think about in Jesmond. Obviously, a customer only has a certain amount of money to spend. So obviously, we've got to think about austerity, obviously at the council. Obviously, the council's trying its best. You know, we know it's a Labour-controlled council and we know they're trying their best, but sometimes the power they have seems to make them neglect the people who put them in that position of power, which worries me. Jesmond is a place which has got a lot of issues. Obviously, you don't get a lot of money from the council, and obviously we've got to make the best use of the money, what basically we get. It's the same in Gosford. We're Liberal Democrat councillors are trying very, very hard, as we know, but that disappointed me. That's why I'm here, telling you about UKIP. I'm giving everybody who's interested in UKIP an opportunity to vote UKIP. There's a lot of people interested in it. A lot of people here in Jesmond, a lot of people in Gosford. Not as many in other parts of Newcastle, but a lot of people. So I'm here to give you that opportunity to vote UKIP. I don't live far away. I'm very, very well aware of what's going on in Jesmond. I'm very, very well aware of what's going on in Newcastle City Council with the majority-held Labour councillors there running everything for us up here, even though we don't necessarily agree with the Labour councillors. I know there's a lot of people here who are Liberals. So I'm here to give you that other option to vote UKIP. So thank you very much, and I look forward to answering any questions from the panel and also from the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the candidates for those very brief introductions. So we're well ahead of schedule, which gives us plenty of time for a terrific discussion later. What we're going to do is go on to the first question that the candidates have been pre-notified, first of four. And that question is, council policy is to reduce the prevalence of car travel in the city. How would you support that aim in Jesmond? Could I turn to Mr. Jerry Keating first, please?
Thank you very much. Reducing the prevalence of car travel used to be known as modal shift 20 years ago in the northeast. And many attempts have been made at modal shift, none of them successful. I'm afraid we're always chasing a moving target which was continually slipping away from us. But some of the efforts that were made, particularly in terms of super routes with the buses and various other ones, did at least perhaps reduce the rate at which people transferred to cars. Now the question actually says how would you support that aim in Jesmond, which of course presupposes that I do support that aim at all, but you're all right, I do. You need to understand that there are ways in parts of the city where if you increased car use, you would overall decrease car use. So for example, if outside the West Jesmond station parking was restored and people from Jesmond drove there to get the metro, the net effect would be a reduction of traffic in the city. So the question is more complicated than it seems. However, I've got 4 quick points, 4 quick ways. Some of them have been tried in the past. The most effective way of reducing traffic congestion and car use in this ward over the last 10 years has been the parking permit scheme, by giving houses only 2 permits. We've got Ron Armstrong sitting over there to thank most for that. Now, a way forward might be to reduce the parking permits to 1, but I am not going to go into that territory. I think it would be a complete non-starter. So that won't work. Public transport, I think, is excellent in the Jesmond area, and so that's not the route either. Thirdly, what about school initiatives, getting minibuses to take some of the children to school? That is a big cause of the congestion. And finally, if you might indulge me, Chairman, the only thing that will do it in the long run, and let's face it, it is a long run, is a change in culture about car use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to remind the candidates we're supposed to be working on 2 minutes. I've let Jerry Keating overrun a bit there, so I'll let the other candidates
That's to make up for the time I didn't use before that.
I couldn't find an optimum moment to interrupt, but what I will do is I'll allow everybody else 2.5 minutes on this, and on the next set of questions we'll have to stick closely to 2 minutes. So what I'll do is when you've got 30 seconds left, I'll just wave. Sorry, I should have made that clear at the start. Could we next have Shayla Naptheby for the Green Party, please?
Thank you. I don't know about you guys. I don't know who uses buses in this audience, but I've aged waiting for the number 33. And it's a fantastic service. I mean, the route it takes is just phenomenal, because I work in Gosforth and I get it, and it cuts through Jesmond, it cuts through all the places I need to. But when you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and you eventually get on, and it's a lovely group of passengers, you just think, God, wouldn't it be fantastic if our bus service was a bit more efficient? How much would it take to just invest a bit more in our transport? I do apologise. I wholeheartedly support partnership work in looking at the environment and how we can reduce traffic, reduce congestion, reduce emissions, and improve our public services. I really like what Living Streets are doing, because I think we've got some great metro systems in this part of the world. Very efficient, very clean, lovely to use. But metro stations are so dull. Wouldn't it be fantastic if we combined the use of metro stations into community hubs? Wouldn't it be fantastic if we helped encourage landlords and the monopoly that we have of landlord initiatives in this part of Newcastle to encourage students to use bicycles, to walk? You see so much of the environment when you walk. And you're absolutely right. I think this part of Newcastle is beautiful, but we don't make enough use of our space. We've got something called the Quality Contract Scheme with local transport and bus systems, and I think that we can look at better integrated routes, and we can look at subsidising bus fares for students, right up to the Haymarket. Even make it free. What would it cost? So I think creatively, between us, there are many, many initiatives that we could use. And I just feel that with some community engagement, we could really make it happen. And I'd like to talk more about that later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shayla. Could I invite Daniel Thompson, please, for UKIP?
We need cars. Don't be misconceived. It's easy to talk about we're not needing cars. It's easy to say, well, we're going to change in the future. Well, to be honest, I think 80% of us are not going to do that. Permit parking in Jesmond, well, I think the permits should be free and they should be allocated to people who need them. I think people who have businesses should be able to park in Jesmond. I think they need to be able to park all day free of charge. I think businesses need to be helped. The cyclists are getting a lot of help, and they need help because people need to cycle, but not everybody can cycle. It's as simple as that. We cannot imagine an old lady or a middle-aged person like myself is going to take up cycling. We've never done it before. It's very easy to say, well, you've waited for the bus. Well, maybe we should have more number 33 buses. There's only one bus service going down Osborne Road. I've used it myself, going to the gym and that, and I like the service, but it's once every half hour. Why don't we have this once every 10 minutes? We've got to try and cater for everybody's needs. We need more space, we need more buses, we need to make the permits free, we need to help everybody. But we can't just be blinkered into thinking that the cycling and the public transport is the only way around this. The only way around this is by everybody getting together and working together and thinking together and not having preconceived ideas about any transport system anywhere in the northeast of England or therefore anywhere in the country. We obviously know a lot about cycle lanes. We obviously know a lot about Acorn Road. We obviously know a lot about how cycles work in London, the capital, and how it works better there than here. But we have to appreciate at the moment people are using the cycles. But come winter time, people will be back in their cars, they'll be driving around, the roads will be full as usual, and the only way we're going to stop this happening is by increasing some sort of charge on the motorist who is travelling into the city. If we can do that, we can alleviate a lot of the traffic problems. People who live locally sometimes need to use their cars locally, as we know. So we've got to accept that. We can't charge people to be parking outside their homes. We can't charge people who live near Newcastle to drive into Newcastle. We've got to look about charging people who live outside of our area, who want to travel in or use our area as shortcuts to other areas. Obviously, we need a lot of people to appreciate they should be using the Western Bypass. They shouldn't be using the Great North Road. And you know what they're doing at Forsyth Road. It's amazing what they're doing there. They're gearing this road up to take more traffic. And that's going to affect us here in Jesmond and in Gosforth. We want to gear these roads up to take less traffic. And we want to divert the traffic off to the more important, bigger roads, i.e. the motorways, the bypasses around Newcastle. That's what we must do. Everybody's got to be taken into consideration here. Are we getting on with time?
Another 15 seconds.
I just ask everybody to think. Maybe you're on your bicycles now, but when you get older, maybe you'll have a problem with your hip or something, you're going to need to go back into a car. You're going to create a situation where we're not going to have an opportunity to use cars in the city centre. We don't want that happening in 20, 30 years' time. We've got to look towards the future, taking everybody into consideration on this matter. And I think that's a sensible approach.
Thank you very much. And next, it's Duncan Creek, please, for Conservative Party.
I'll just reiterate the question. The council policy is to reduce the prevalence of car travel in the city. So that's the first part. The second part is how would you support that aim in Jesmond? The problem that's occurred in Jesmond is with the council implementing this policy, it pushes the pressure on the hinterland. And North Jesmond is in that hinterland. And you have people coming here, parking the car and commuting in, either by walking into town or by taking the public transport. That's what's happened. A good example of where this has occurred is Lindisfarne Road and Addison Crescent, where people park the car the whole day and hop on the number 33 bus. Now, if I was an owner of a property in that area, I'd be pretty hacked off because they've paid a very high price, they're in the highest band of the council tax, and they cannot park their cars outside their front door. So that's what's occurred. It's a policy that hasn't been thought through correctly, and Jesmond is suffering. To answer the second part of the question, how would I alleviate this problem? First of all, I would issue more permits. I would issue the permits to the residents, and I would issue the permits to the traders, because they are the ones who are paying the business rates, and they are the ones who are paying the council tax. But I would also implement more metered parking.
For it. Anyway, I'm 49-year-old, I'm self-employed. I was 15 years old when I became self-employed. I'm a businessman. I know what people need, business people need. I know what customers need, customers who go to shops. The customer is always right. But obviously, we've got a lot of things to think about in Jesmond. Obviously, a customer only has a certain amount of money to spend. So obviously, we've got to think about austerity, obviously at the council, obviously the council's going on in Jesmond. I'm very, very well aware of what's going on in Newcastle City Council with the majority-held Labour councillors there running everything for us up here, even though we don't necessarily agree with the Labour councillors. I know there's a lot of people here who are Liberals, so I'm here to give you that other option to vote UKIP. So thank you very much, and I look forward to answering any questions from the panel and also from the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the candidates for those very brief introductions. So we're well ahead of schedule.
Trying its best, you know. We know it's a Labour-controlled council and we know they're trying their best, but sometimes the power they have seems to make them neglect the people who put them in that position of power, which worries me. Jesmond is a place that's got a lot of issues. Obviously, you don't get a lot of money from the council, and obviously we've got to make the best use of the money, what basically we get. It's the same in Gosforth. We're Liberal Democrat councillors. They're trying very, very hard, as we know, but that disappointed me. That's why I'm here, telling you about UKIP. I'm giving everybody who's interested in UKIP an opportunity to vote UKIP. There's a lot of people interested in it. A lot of people here in Jesmond, a lot of people in Gosforth. Not as many in other parts of Newcastle, but a lot of people. So I'm here to give you that opportunity to vote UKIP. I don't live far away. I'm very, very well aware of what...
Which gives us plenty of time for a terrific discussion later. What we're going to do is go on to the first question that the candidates have been pre-notified, first of four. And that question is, council policy is to reduce the prevalence of car travel in the city. How would you support that aim in Jesmond? And could I turn to Mr. Jerry Keating?